I want to take this opportunity to thank the other speakers and other participants that are online. It's truly a pleasure. Our topic today is leadership strategy toward recovery with the Africa in focus. Every time we talk about Africa, it is a challenge for me because we know that Africa, there's so many countries, and each country has different policy and a way of doing things. But the lessons that I'm going to address for key points. First, how can we move to a recovery is by focusing on healthcare. Because we understand that healthcare is a big issue for Africa right now, for most of the countries in Africa. And what we have learned is some people who have wealth try to come to the West, to get treated. But with the lockdown, everything was stuck there. So I think it was great lessons that we start focusing on developing healthcare, not just facility, but researches and bringing resources. So that way, everyone in the continent can have access to proper healthcare. We know it's gonna be difficult, but we know that it's possible. We have to start from somewhere, to begin stuff. So we understand that everybody that is here, if we don't have a good health, we wouldn't be here today talking and participating in this great event. So the one thing I'm gonna say first is one strategy for leadership, is to focus on healthcare, to see how we can better and how we can create more access to healthcare for Africa population. The second key point, I think the rest of the speaker have kind of discussed that, is technology. So this COVID-19 has taught us, even us here, the importance of technology. Again, we're here using Zoom. If it was not for Zoom and technology, we would not be here. So, and again, like I mentioned in the beginning of the presentation, we cannot compare every country in Africa. We understand some country in Africa have developed the internet access, while most of the country in Africa did not. So having access to technology, to the internet, will be a great asset toward the recovery. Another third point is social support. We understand that many countries in the West have some fund to help them. But people that live in Africa, they live day by day. And we cannot tell them to stay home, for 30 days and to survive. It's difficult for all those people. So I think there should be a mechanism where people can have a support in a different way, so that way they can emerge even if they are confined, and come out prosperous. I think another thing is also entrepreneurship. We have seen this through this COVID pandemic, there's some brand ideas that people have come up with. Rwanda, I see some robots, that go to the hospital. So how can we foster, and motivate and encourage other entrepreneurs in Africa to come up with some ideas during this post-COVID, so that way we can have more effective things. Another key point is communication and education. Because we have noticed that people are not well informed, on what's going on. So if we can find a way through social media where people are right now to use those platforms, to educate, those people on the danger and how people can move forward, after post-COVID-19. Another last point is to find a way that the government can work with private entity and different stakeholders, to build systematic change that will address future crises. Because believe it or not, we're gonna go through that crisis in the future. Crisis is not gonna end to COVID. There's gonna be crisis in the future. How do you prepare in the future and have a crisis management team, maybe for every country or for Africa, to address those kind of issues? Thank you so much.
We're talking a lot about growth and industrialization. But how do we, as we foment that, as we encourage that, how do we also keep time for the diversity of rich cultures? How do we make sure that those are kept alive, and the soul of that culture is kept alive throughout these initiatives? And kind of on that end, another thing that I think can impact as well is how do we ensure that this recovery and this growth is also sustainable, and that in this time, this very kind of unique time, we don't forgo sustainability, we don't forgo the uniqueness and diversity of culture for just very, very rapid economic focus. And I'm kind of opening that to whoever of the speakers would like to take that first.
Well, I can go first since I'm the last, I'll be glad to take on that. So in response to that question, I know there's a lot of questions there, but my response will be that's what I mentioned earlier. Like when we talk about Africa, we talk about 53 different countries. We talk about different cultures, different way of doing things. And we have to be really mindful on each culture and each people and all those people, how they operate, how they do things. And when we talk about education, for instance, we cannot take the way we will educate people about COVID in the West and apply to people like in Africa or people like in Togo or Ghana or whatever. We have to see the context, right? And we have to maybe see the language, how we can what communication channel to use. For instance, we, instead of using English, could be like a dialect, right? Instead of using something like in a village, instead of social media, maybe going to the chief of the village, find, the chief of the village, know those people better. What would be there? Because sometimes we're trying to forget, to go through those proper channels. We just assume that, hey, everybody should go by this way. And then we neglect them. We realize later that we're not effective in what we're doing.
Thank you so much. We're going to have one last question that we had from an audience before we have a musical interlude. I know everyone's been very patient and we've had really rich discussions so far. So the last question that we have from a participant before the program even started, which I think is a great one, is how can we use ICTs to accelerate the impact on rural communities so they have access to similar opportunities than urban areas? And I know that was something that was addressed in the presentations very shortly, but if that could be addressed as well.
Sunil mentioned, making technology available to the underserved is crucial. We have seen sad things, with transfer of money when people who don't have any money can transfer money via the cell phone. So we believe that, getting those things, those techniques to those people will be very tangible and access and develop things. Yeah.